What's going on, everyone? John Matrix here. Hope you're all having yourselves a wonderful day. Thanks for stopping in, checking out the video. Hope you enjoy it. We are going to be jumping back into the SCP universe again here with the Exploring series. This is another requested video that we're going to be taking a look at. This is SCP-7027. A is for Annihilation. Links will be down below in the description as always to the original video without my commentary and reaction, and to the Exploring series channel. Please do me a favor, click those links if you enjoyed this video. Give it a like, and if you are not already subbed to the Exploring series channel but enjoy his content, please do me a favor, go out there, click that link, give the man some love, hit that sub on his channel. Definitely deserves it. Makes a lot of great content for the SCP universe and others, so please do me that favor. Excuse me. If you'd like to join us when we do these reactions live, there is a join button underneath the video, as well as a link to the membership benefits and tiers that I offer in the description. You know, if you've been around the channel for a while, you want to take your support to the channel to the next level, check those out and see if any of that would have any interest for you. But with all that said, let's jump into this video here. Again, this is SCP-7027. A is for Annihilation. Let's do it. Bada boop, bada bing, bada bang.
SCP-7027. A is for Annihilation. Death is a common fear for most people, which is no surprise. The uncertainty of the unknown after we leave this world gives plenty of people cause for concern, and even if they're more sure of their beliefs, most people are never ready to leave.
True.
SCP-7027 showcases a group of monks that not only do not fear their deaths, they welcome it.
They welcome it,
but
okay.
not just any ordinary death. Instead, they seek total oblivion.
Huh.
Let's take a look.
So I assume that means, like, if they realize they have a soul, they want, like, a void death. They want a death of not just their body, but of their consciousness and their soul as well. They want, like, total, absolute oblivion when they die. That's what I'm assuming this is going to get into, so...
SCP-7027 is an anomalous phenomena, primarily harnessed as a process of physical transfiguration and psychological augmentation by members of a monastic order located in the Karakoram mountain range. The anomaly initially manifests in infected individuals as a 15mm to 25mm diameter black circular dot on the center of their forehead. This mark superficially resembles a decorative bindi, but is irremovable unless surgically excised soon after infection.
That's what I was wondering. I was like, huh, is this somehow in relation to something with Hinduism? But, huh.
As the infection progresses, this dot will expand and consume the face of its host,
Yikes.
Causing the front of the skull to sink and eventually collapse into an indeterminately deep void before slowly spreading to the rest of the body.
So it's some kind of anomalous infection that, like, sucks you into, like, a void? Like a black hole or something you put on your forehead, and just slowly over time it, like, sucks you in?
Flesh blackened in this way does not reflect any light, and will begin to develop holes and fissures, further disfiguring the individual. These holes, like the aperture that began on the forehead, showcase physically impossible interior dimensions, and any objects introduced to these voids are ultimately unrecoverable. Additionally, these cavities produce a continuous discharge, which visibly behaves in a manner similar to a hot gas or plasma, but appears almost completely opaque, save for its outermost zone, which bears a semi-translucent quality.
So it is. It almost really does kind of sound like a black hole, and things are being condensed at certain points in the body as it's going through, that it's like ejecting plasma, like, you know, what would happen out in space? Like quasars and shit. But my bad, I just hit my mic if you guys heard that. But it's happening like here. I don't know. I mean, that's what it sounds like is going on. So interesting.
For its outermost zone, which bears a semi-translucent quality, blurring the space around it. All efforts to extract a sample of this substance have failed, leaving its chemical composition unknown. But it has been discovered that the temperature around the fissures steadily decreases, closely approaching absolute zero
Yeah.
as the individual
It's like a
enters
black
the
hole.
final state of infection. At this point, they disintegrate before disappearing completely, leaving no trace of matter, even if the subject is held in a vacuum-sealed containment unit. The progression of this anomaly violates
happens to
the
the
law
mark, then?
of conservation of mass, with the subatomic particles of the individual undergoing annihilation without the apparent introduction of their respective antiparticles. This transformation takes the course of decades to fully carry out, and will inevitably result in the destruction of vital organs, including
Right.
the brain and heart. At this stage, the individual
I feel like they would die before their body would be fully disintegrated, right? Because, like, if it starts at the forehead, like they're saying, and it, like, shrinks into the brain and all that, you know, the head would be the first thing that would go, and then eventually the body would, like, go later, right? So they would die long before their full body would be, like, sucked into this void or whatever it is.
individuals are clinically deceased, requiring neither sleep nor sustenance, but they will remain mobile and continue to wander through the monastery when not seated in meditation.
Okay.
The Foundation has yet to uncover the exact source of the anomaly, but physical symptoms of the infection occur only after the monks have confined themselves within the walls of the monastery. These interiors are only large enough to allow for meditation and function as a form of sensory deprivation. The monks believe that by immersing themselves in darkness, they allow their bodies to become its host. Personnel at the site set up near the monastery have reported possible paranatural encounters, but so far the reports are merely anecdotal.
And, like, the question that I would have is, like, how did this start? Right? You know what I'm saying? And, like, have they not, like, asked the question of, what is this? Does it really serve, like, some kind of higher purpose? Like, or are you just feeding some kind of eldritch god your essence? And you know what I mean? Is it like one of those things where it's like they think they're doing it for some kind of enlightenment or something like that, or some kind of perfect death? I don't know. I don't know. It sounds strange already, though.
The list includes sightings of mobile humanoid shadows without an apparent source, higher frequency of night terrors and sleep paralysis, sudden transitory cold spots, even within the insulated and heated sections of the site.
You know, it almost kind of seems like it's like beings from another dimension or something like that are, like, attaching themselves to these people with this, and they're, like, draining their life essence and matter into this other dimension for whatever reason. Either to just transport them over there, or maybe they're using this matter or their life essence for something. That's what I feel like is what's going on so far. You know, I guess we'll see what happens.
Higher than average radio interference, the appearance and rapid disappearance of black stains throughout the monastery, and long-term personnel displaying a steady decrease in feelings of self-worth during routine psychological examinations.
Okay.
The Foundation became aware of the anomaly in 1956, following reports of unusual disfigurements occurring among members of an isolated Buddhist sect in Tibet. Due to the singular nature of their philosophy, the sect and monastery had no formal name, but the residents of neighboring villages commonly referred to them as the Empty Ones, or literally, those who are empty of being. The monks were classified as a group of interest, and it's noted that they practice an extreme form of asceticism and forbid the use of personal names, depictions of the human form, or even the preservation of their own history. They believe that enlightenment can only be achieved through drastic humility, and they must be purged of vanity and pride, with corporeal existence regarded as the final arrogance to be undone.
Interesting.
Through the anomaly, they believe that they can permanently escape samsara, the cycle of life, death, and rebirth.
Okay, so they're essentially, I think the idea is that through this method, they can break the cycle of karma and ascend to another level of existence outside of this cycle. That's what I'm assuming. But I mean, it's like, is that something that, like, let's say that this cycle does exist and that is how things work? You know, you go through life and, you know, the good and bad things you do, you build up karma, and at the end of your life, depending on how good or bad you were, you get resurrected as, you know, a higher or lower being. That's like my very uneducated understanding of what that cycle is. I'm not, you know, a philosopher or theologist in you know, those kind of religions, but to my understanding, that's kind of like the basic concept of it. So, like, if that cycle is, you know, what's happening, who's to say that you could even break out of that cycle? And if so, like, what are you even breaking into? Who says, you know, maybe you're just being suckered into doing something and having other entities, like I said, drain your life force out of you and use you for something else. You know, who knows? But maybe it could be. It could be like they do this and they can break this cycle of life, death, and rebirth and ascend to be something greater or just different outside of this cycle of life, death, and rebirth.
Despite their surface resemblance to other Buddhist groups, the monks here bear many significant deviations, including believing in Akriyavada, a heretical doctrine which claims that moral acts have no consequences, and therefore no influence on rebirth. Unlike most monastic traditions, the group includes both men and women, many initiated as children, and all are expected to practice the same level of asceticism, regardless of age, gender, or physical health. This life of austerity includes the renunciation of material possessions, avoidance of physical pleasures, and meager diets that leave members in a state of chronic starvation, though without many of the typical symptoms. Members of the order also practice ritual self-mortification, believing that pain, humiliation, self-denial, and disfigurement aid in the destruction of ego.
So they essentially go through life, you know, like self-flatulating, making themselves feel terrible, humiliating themselves, essentially like degrading themselves in every way possible so that they can die in this way that turns them into nothing to, I guess, like I said, you know, break this cycle of life, death, and rebirth. Interesting.
Prior to containment, methods of humiliation often involved visiting neighboring villages, stripping down, smearing themselves in dirt and ash, and non-verbally begging or inciting the locals into physically assaulting them.
Okay.
Despite frequent injury and infection, this behavior has never been observed to result in fatalities, and the villagers regard their actions as part of a tradition beneficial to the monks, as opposed to angry violence.
I mean, at least, yeah, it never gets to the point where someone actually gets killed. They just understand like, that's part of their religious tradition, and they, I guess, the word I'm looking for, appease isn't necessarily the right word, but they, you know, help them fulfill their religious beliefs by beating the shit out of them, you know, and embarrassing them.
The Order does not actively recruit, and instead receives initiates by anomalous means, with newly arrived members refusing to communicate, suggesting prior knowledge of at least some of the Order's tenets.
I wonder what the anomalous means
As
are.
they are unwilling to divulge information, their reasons for joining are unknown, and it's presently hypothesized that the anomaly's influence extends beyond the monastery and is capable of compelling certain individuals to join through suggestion or
This is like a situation where someone randomly in the world can wake up with this, you know, black dot on their head, and then they'd have an urge to come to this monastery.
Possibly even direct control. The Foundation allows these individuals within the site as they provide a steady flow of research subjects, and they willingly accept their permanent containment. Due to the extreme terrain of the region, it's possible that some called to the monastery do not survive the journey.
They don't make the journey
and
up.
all of the members appear to be of Tibetan or Nepalese descent. So it's likely that the anomaly's reach is limited to the region.
Gotcha.
The monks maintain a vow of silence, but leave a single person to speak for the sect, the de facto leader of the order, who refers to himself as Bodhisattva. His position requires that he refrain from certain aspects of the faith in order to facilitate the path to nirvana for other monks.
Interesting. Okay, so he understands what's going on and elects not to do it in order to guide others to their enlightenment, essentially. Interesting. So again, could be a situation where that's real. And that is a real thing, or it could be a situation where it's almost like it's a scam and the man's in on it, you know?
As a result, he has so far avoided the infection, but he intends to seek a successor so that he might begin the process.
Okay.
In an interview with him, a Foundation doctor asks him if he has no name, as he must have had a life before the monastery. The man says that they are a slate wiped clean, as their pasts are erased along with their names, and there is only the way.
This is the way.
The doctor asks about the way, and the man replies that they follow the way of the Black Buddha, and that to exist, to impose yourself on reality, is the foundational conceit upon which all suffering is derived. It is not a path.
You suffer because you're imposing yourself on reality. Interesting. I wonder if this also, just because of, previous SCP stuff, I wonder if this is somehow connected with, like, an everything that isn't scenario, like, are these black dots a portal to the everything that isn't reality, and that's where the stuff is going. I don't know.
Path to walk or a goal to be sought, but rather it is simply surrender.
Oh,
the doctor asks what they become, but the man says that becoming implies creation, while they are unmade. They are embraced by sunyata, meaning emptiness or voidness, a truth without color or shape that permeates, festers, and soaks them in darkness.
Sounds very Dark Souls-ish. It very much sounds like, giving up your humanity, kind of a situation as part of the Dark Soul, etc.
The doctor remarks that there are swifter methods to end your life, but the man says that he fails to understand. Death is meaningless, as your flesh is returned to the earth, and the soul to samsara.
They're trying to break the cycle of everything so that, like, your body isn't then used to fertilize the ground and be used by the bacteria and bugs and other things. You break the cycle of, everything. You break the cycle of, like I said, life, death, rebirth, etc.
Continues. There is no mercy or enlightenment in the turning of the wheel. The doctor wonders if existence is really so awful, as it seems that much of their pain is self-inflicted. The man,
like, what would drive you to want to cease to exist in every way possible? Like, if there is a possibility of being reincarnated into a new existence, whatever that existence is, even if you turn into a bug or something like that, eventually you can, build up enough karma to, as far as I know from what it works, you can build up enough karma, goodwill, whatever, to be born again as a higher being or a human or, whatever, and, have a chance to experience life to more of a greater extent again, in a new or different way. So I don't know, like, the idea of, like, wanting to become absolute nothing, I don't know. Like I said, it's giving me the whole jumping across realities to the everything that isn't spectrum and just wanting to be nothing. Yeah, I don't know.
Man replies that life is suffering, but it is not without a certain insidious beauty. It fascinates, enthralls, and binds us to this realm, to fragile and fleeting forms. The illusion is dispelled the moment you recognize it for the falsehood that it is, and there can be no return to ignorance, no matter how comforting the lie may be.
Very Dark Souls sounding,
They
yeah.
seek escape before the truth is lost to death and rebirth, to the ceaseless turning of the hated wheel. The doctor says that he understands now, but asks why this method and how it works. The man says that there are three great illusions which bind humans: life, the world, and the self. We must surrender to the obliteration of the self if we are ever to transcend. One cannot fight the self, for it feeds on struggle, and this tether cannot be broken. You can, however, slip free of it by sinking to the darkest, most wretched depths. When they achieve sunyata, the void consumes that which they manifest, and a shackle cannot bind what no longer exists. It slips away, like rain from our hands, like dust upon a wind. That is the obliteration of the self. Ground-penetrating radar detected the presence of man-made objects beneath the monastery and its surrounding land, including a number of large ash deposits containing traces of paper, birch bark, and silk, most likely immolated manuscripts, and heavily damaged Buddhist statues and murals, which have been carbon dated to the 14th century CE.
So, like, destroying Buddhist history?
Reconstructed statues were found to resemble the Buddha seated in a lotus position, but without a face, and it's hypothesized that the statues were ritually defaced to resemble infected individuals, only to be shattered and buried sometime later. Careful restoration of the murals revealed depictions of robed figures wreathed by an aura of black flames, undoubtedly representing SCP-7027. Based on this evidence, it's surmised that the Order had not always forbade artistic representation, but later adopted the belief, resulting in or preceding an iconoclastic episode between the 14th and 15th century CE.
Interesting.
On April 17th, 1987, the monastery was damaged by a natural landslide, although the section that was hit was rarely used, so there were no fatalities. The disaster, however, would reveal the presence of man-made structures beneath the monastery, and following an archaeological survey, it was determined that the ruins were Epipaleolithic, built not long after the arrival of modern humans to the region.
Damn.
The building material used consisted of stone, bone, and clay, though the architecture itself displays a level of ingenuity uncommon among contemporaneous cultures.
So I wonder if this is some kind of god or entity that these, people originally worshipped when they first came here and built, the structure that they're talking about, and then was like somehow lost the history, and this Buddhist temple had been built on top of this or over this or whatever, and then overall through time, though, certain Buddhists started, meditating in darkness for whatever reason, and then this entity being or whatever that was worshipped back in the day started having an influence over these people again.
The structure had been built at the mouth of a natural mountain cavern, which was discovered to contain a gallery of well-preserved parietal art, including a pair of murals. The first depicts a tall white humanoid with their left hand over their heart, where splashes of red pigment suggest injury, and their right hand extended with the palm face up. 6 ochre-color humanoids prostrate themselves before the larger figure, and a black, formless substance rises from the ground and enters the open mouths of the smaller human figures.
Yeah.
Despite its greater size, the white humanoid is not depicted as domineering and is more likely a teacher or spiritual leader than a king or conqueror. Its appearance, along with its countenance and pose, has led one Tibetan specialist to make a comparison to a mythical monkey ancestor of the Tibetan people. The second mural displays a complex three-leveled scenario centered around a tree with deep roots. Viewed from the bottom up, it depicts black serpents gnawing on the roots, which have black veins.
Again, kind of feeling Titania and Children of the Night vibes here with that.
Perhaps to represent poisoning, infection, or the spread of a curse. The taint rises through the roots into the second level, where humanoids bite into the roots, removing the taint as someone would suck out venom. The humanoids are missing limbs, and numerous black spots are seen on their bodies. At the highest level, the tree is healthy and full of leaves, surviving thanks to the sacrifice of those below. If the radiocarbon dating of this site is accurate, it's possible that individuals have been working to contain the anomaly for 20,000 years.
Oh, I kind of want to go back and re-listen to this whole spiel again.
The building material used consisted of stone, bone, robed figures wreathed by an aura of black flames, undoubtedly representing SCP-7027. Based on this evidence, it's surmised that the Order had not always forbade artistic representation, but later a episode between the 14th and 15th century CE. On April 17th, 1987, the monastery was rarely used, so there were no man-made structures beneath the monastery, and following an archaeological survey long after the arrival of modern humans to the region, Paleolithic, built not long after the arrival of modern humans to the region.
So Paleolithic humans came and built this, built like a temple.
Used consisted of stone,
bone and clay,
though the architecture itself displays a level of ingenuity uncommon among contemporaneous cultures. The structure had been built at the mouth of a natural mountain cavern, which was discovered to contain a gallery of well-preserved parietal art, including a pair of murals. The first depicts a tall white humanoid with their left hand over their heart, where splashes of red pigment suggest injury, and their right hand extended with the palm face up.
I wonder if it's some kind of Davite sorcerer or whatever that came here and was teaching people things. Like this is some kind of ritual or something like that. And a ritual went wrong. I don't know, let's continue listening to that.
6 ochre-color humanoids prostrate themselves before the larger figure, and a black, formless substance rises from the ground and enters the open mouths of the smaller human figures. Despite its greater size, the white humanoid is not depicted as domineering, and is more likely a teacher or saint spiritual or leader than a king or conqueror.
A priest or some sort.
Its appearance, along with its countenance and pose, has led one Tibetan specialist to make a comparison to a mythical monkey ancestor of the Tibetan people.
Okay.
The second mural displays a complex three-leveled scenario centered around a tree with deep roots.
Yeah, there's a tree with deep roots, there's snakes that are biting at the roots that seem to poison it, and then there's people that are essentially seeming to be depicted as eating the roots, but they're probably pruning and cleaning the roots, taking the anomaly into themselves, but leaving the tree healthy.
Viewed from the bottom up, it depicts black serpents gnawing on the roots, which have black veins, perhaps to represent poisoning, infection, or the spread of a curse. The taint rises through the roots into the second level, where humanoids bite into the roots, removing the taint as someone would suck out venom. The humanoids are missing limbs, and numerous black spots are seen on their bodies. At the highest level, the tree is healthy and full of leaves, surviving thanks to the sacrifice of those below. If the radiocarbon dating of this site is accurate, it's possible that individuals have been working to contain the anomaly for 20,000 years.
Yeah, so there's some kind of anomaly underground under there that whatever reason, is attacking this tree, and the people that lived there at one point in time were essentially trying to eat the roots that were infected to keep the tree healthy and clean for whatever reason. There must be some kind of symbolism or reason why they're trying to keep this tree alive and sacrificing essentially their health, for the tree.
On September 12th, 1997, a security officer entered the site infirmary to request medication for what he believed at the time to be a sinus headache. Medical personnel, however, immediately noticed a black spot on his forehead, and after a thorough physical examination, determined that the subject was infected with 7027, exhibiting the first visible symptom of the transformation. The officer was classified as anomalous and became the first, and so far only, recorded case of an infected individual not being a member of the monastic order.
Okay, interesting.
He willingly cooperated with containment and observation, becoming a critical source of information due to not being bound to the vow of silence.
Right.
A doctor was assigned to him, Dr. Miyazawa, and during his initial interview, she apologizes on behalf of the Foundation, as they would have taken stronger safety precautions had they known that the infection could occur this way. The officer says that they couldn't have known, but she still tells him that they'll do everything they can to undo his predicament.
Didn't they say that it could be surgically removed, or am I mistaken about that? I could have swore they said earlier in the video that the dot could be surgically removed, but maybe at the time they didn't know that.
She asks him if he had any physical contact with any of the infected individuals, which he hadn't, and if he ever went into the inner walls of the monastery, which he hadn't.
I wonder if it's like something with dreams.
She asks him how he's feeling.
Right, because they said people had dreams and sleep paralysis, or like night terrors and sleep paralysis and stuff like that. So I wonder if you sleep within a certain radius of whatever this is, it gets into, your dreams and like it infects you that way. Again, kind of sounding very Children of the Night-ish, something involved with them, because they can only communicate through like dreams and whatnot.
As he seems rather calm. And he says that he knows he should feel horror at his situation, but he feels nothing at all. She asks him if he has a history of depression, but he doesn't, so they can probably assume that this is a symptom.
Yeah.
He says that he should be angry that he can't feel anything, and his brain wants to scream and rage, but there's just emptiness, like trying to locate a word in a dictionary, only to find that it's been cut out. Now there's just a hole. By early 1998, the infection had spread to the officer's left eye and formed a vein that wrapped around his neck and connected to a newly formed black mark on the cervical region of the spine.
The fuck?
He occasionally reports headaches before expelling dark smoke and sludge from his mouth, with both substances evaporating too rapidly to allow analysis.
That sounds awful.
He also suffers frequent and violent tremors, causing his body to contort unnaturally, and he walks with a stiff, shambling gait. As the infected belonging to the monastery do not display similar reactions, it's possible that their teachings and practices, particularly meditation, ultimately allow them to better tolerate the infection's effects. In another...
It could also just be, like having to go out and humiliate yourself appeases something with the infection so that you don't go through this pain trauma process, or because you're doing it to yourself ahead of time in a different way, you don't feel like the pain of whatever this infection is.
In their interview, Dr. Miyazawa finds the officer curled on the floor, staring at the ceiling with his remaining eye. She says that he's clearly in a state of acute distress, and asks if the morphine he received this morning helped, which it hasn't. She asks how he would describe his pain on a scale from 1 to 10, and he replies that there's no scale that could possibly capture the pain he feels at the moment. So she puts it down as a 10. She remarks that he's continuing to display unusual calmness and clarity despite this, and he says that there's a separation. The pain is visceral. He's in unending agony, but it also feels like an out-of-body experience. He then suffers from a coughing fit, causing black smoke to emanate from various orifices, and mentions that the monks can take a decade to change, while he's been in containment for less than 5 months.
Yeah, there must be something with their ritual process of meditating and going through humiliating themselves that lessens. It must like extend the process, so they don't necessarily like feel all the pain at once. Kind of like it seems like he's going through like a rapid decay, right? And so because it's happening so fast, it's extremely painful. But maybe through the process of their meditation and their self-humiliation practices, it somehow extends the duration and lessens the overall pain because it doesn't happen so rapidly. Like he's saying it takes, over a decade for the monks to get where he's at, and it's happened to him in less than 5 months. So obviously something else different's happening here. And the only real thing that seems to be a connection is that he's not going through their religious practices. They're just observing him essentially decaying into whatever it happens.
He asks if another security officer can come and put a bullet in his head, although with his condition, it would just be one more hole. Dr. Miyazawa agrees, but says that she'll bring up his request for merciful termination to the director. Unfortunately, due to his research potential, the request was denied.
Of course.
His transformation displayed significant deviation from other infected individuals, warping his body in conjunction with its increasing number of void pits, each of which steadily grew in circumference at a rate of around 1.3 centimeters a year.
Void pits.
He became fused to the containment room floor, and prior to the cessation of brain activity, he developed symptoms of dementia and acute memory loss, though it is unknown if these were caused directly by the infection or were a natural response to his trauma. By the year 2000, he lost the ability to see, but retained his mouth and right ear, so another interview was conducted.
Jesus Christ.
Dr. Miyazawa asks him to describe his recent experience.
Can you imagine that? Could you imagine being fused to a specific spot and being in such unfathomable amounts of pain that you want to die, but at the same time are cut off from any kind of emotional, like ability to emotionally express or experience things to the point where it feels like you're not even you anymore, you're out of your body, and what's happening isn't to you, and then to lose all sight but still be able to hear and speak and still be in that state. Like, I mean, I get, a part of me understands why the SCP obviously doesn't terminate him, because they can gain more knowledge and understand what is happening better here and could then determine ways to prevent or cure it in the future. But at the same time, man, like, at a point where it's like, what else are you gonna really, can you learn anything else from this? And is it time to allow that mercy,
experiences, to which he says that the shadows won't stop. They reach inside and take and take.
Huh. So is this a pattern screamer thing then? The shadows don't stop, they take and take. So yeah, is this like connecting to some kind of pattern screamer thing?
Their greedy claws that scrape and tear. He would bleed for them, but all he has to offer is dust and oil.
Dust and oil.
She then asks him to describe the pain, and he responds that a part of him is in agony, but that part is falling deeper and deeper, and he must be afraid. A cool sludge moves beneath his skin, but as far as he can remember, it was always there. He then vomits and holds the black spewage in his hands, remarking on how it came out, before smearing the substance across the floor where it rapidly evaporates. She then asks about the shadows he mentioned, and he says that there are skittering shapes in the darkness, yellow carapaces, a pale gold, 100 bodies, each with 100 legs. He knows now that they were sacred once, and asks the doctor if she can smell his fumes as its incense. Like opium and myrrh and ancient books, it lingers on his tongue and tastes like forgotten dreams. It's not his memory. Something else remembers it. Something down deep below. Miyazawa asks who remembers, and he says the librarians. It reminds them of the kingdom under the mountain, and reminds them of home. His home is a cage, but where they are just feels like one. The dark and cold preserves. That's all that mattered.
Again, feeling like Titania, Children of the Night stuff happening here. But, you know, from what I understand, that's supposed to have happened in South America, and this is over, you know, in like Tibet somewhere. It's interesting that he says the librarians. You know, I was thinking earlier about you know, the whole everything that is and everything that isn't, you know, thing, and the wandering library. And I'd wondered, you know, if there's a wandering library with the knowledge of everything that is there an opposite library with the knowledge of everything that isn't? And so, like, I wonder, is that like what this potentially is? Is this like he somehow has a connection to the library of everything that isn't? I don't know. That's just a thought. But yeah, I'd wondered if that is something that exists or could exist, or, you know, that's something that DJ Cactus will add to future stuff that he's working on in his verse or not. I don't know. Or if it does exist and I just haven't, you know, gotten to that yet, or what. But anyway.
He then loses consciousness and wouldn't regain it for 14 days, at which point he was unaware of the last conversation. By late 2001, his lower body and left arm coalesced into a shapeless, hardened mound, and his remaining epidermis developed a gray, cracked appearance. We're provided one more interview with the poor security officer, although he's clearly on the last leg of his sanity.
Yeah.
She asks him if he remembers her voice and knows who she is, but he just calls out to his mother, saying that it's cold and to let him in. He talks about a memory,
Jesus.
of a memory, of a memory, and then nothing, before emitting a noise combining a laugh, a crying sound, and a scream. She asks him to describe what he feels, but he just talks about scraps and dregs being flushed down a drain, and says that their end comes for us all. He says that the new king made them forget what the old king showed them, and when they found the truth again, they buried it. The rituals remain, but they don't know what it means. It's better not to know, as better a blessing than a curse. Flesh is used to sponge up so much nothing, and what a filthy, polluted filter we make. It isn't a hole, even though it looks like one. He is a hole, but he's not the darkness. It's an eclipse, and the highest did it, after what they did, all for trying to lift us to their heights. Their moon is a deathless city, a city of knowledge, of secrets and forgotten things, and it casts a long, long shadow. Under the corpse light of their failed black sun, you would never know it was golden. He's cut off as the remainder of his skull suddenly caves in, followed by the complete collapse of his body. Unlike the other infected, who disintegrate into nothing, the officer's body spread across the containment chamber as its void apertures merged to create a single portal. His remaining husk formed a 3.2-meter radius ring around the newly manifested portal, rendering it permanently fixed for the time being. The portal's interior displays properties identical to the smaller apertures created by the infection, but due to its size and apparent stability, unmanned exploration was deemed feasible. The interior environment of the portal is hazardous to organic life, but exhibits conditions similar to the vacuum of space, though with abnormally low temperatures, comparable to the coldest known region of the universe. Despite these similarities, there is nothing else to suggest that the portal connects to outer space, as no stars have been observed from within. Though no conclusive evidence has been discovered, the most accepted hypothesis is that the portal leads to another dimension. There does exist a downward gravitational pull, but its source has yet to be discovered. Considering these factors, it was determined that the best method of exploration would be with a remote probe. The probe was sent in on April 10th, 2002.
So, like, is this indicating that there's something, like, down in the core of the Earth that is just, like, dark and evil, you know? Because, like, the depiction of the mural is, you know, some kind of poison curse or whatever, depicted as serpents biting at a tree, infects these roots, and the people have to essentially destroy the, you know, bad roots, keep the tree alive and healthy. So it's like, it's almost like an indication of, like, there's some kind of darkness at the core of the earth that is trying to seep up and through, and in order to stave it off from, you know, consuming all life, I guess, we have to take this darkness and into ourselves and sacrifice ourselves for all life to exist, kind of a thing. Like, is that what's going on? Like, I don't know. The whole speech that he was going on about with the old king, and, like, I have to listen to it again, but the old king that forgot everything or whatever, like, I want to re-listen to that at the end, but that was very fascinating, and it took a very different turn with what's going on with this tale that has very much intrigued me more. But anyway, let's continue. We're almost done with this here.
But the site didn't receive any notable transmissions until July 16th, 2020. More notable in April would be with a remote
I think
probe.
it said April in 2010.
The probe was sent in on April 10th, 2002. But the site didn't receive any notable transmissions
18 years.
Until July 16th, 2020.
So, I mean, could that be a situation where, like, yeah, this is transported out to somewhere in space and it took 20, I mean, I don't know. You would think it would take longer than that to get a signal back if it's out in space, though, right? You know? Unless it's traveling faster than light somehow, but...
More than 18 years later. Collected data includes a number of images depicting gold-colored artificial structures.
Definitely seems to be going to a different dimension.
Sprawling metropolis. These images were captured approximately 46 hours earlier, over a 12-second period, before all contact with the probe was lost, the device presumably destroyed upon impact. So, we're certainly not given all of the answers here, but there was definitely some misdirection going on initially.
Yeah.
The monks of the monastery believe that by infecting themselves with this anomaly, they can become obliterated and escape the cycle of life and rebirth, reaching their true enlightenment.
That seems to be some kind of ploy for what else is going on here. Maybe it's a situation where, like, again, there's some kind of darkness or evil or whatever down in the core of the earth that's trying to consume all life. The murals depicted, you know, humanity having to take the darkness onto themselves so that potentially, you know, life could exist. And then so this religious process was formed around this, in order to keep this practice going. You know what I'm saying? And instead of, like, knowing people are going to have to die to sacrifice themselves for nothing, the religion could have been like, you know, you're gonna attain enlightenment by, obliteration, break the cycle of life, death, and rebirth, and become something else. An ultimate sacrifice kind of a situation, which could have just been a lie to get people to, keep this process going so that this evil or darkness or whatever could be sated and yada yada. And then through their, meditations and ritual practices of self-humiliation, etc., they're able to extend this duration of, this infection, while also keeping it from essentially expanding and creating this portal, like what happened with the security officer. That's what I feel like is going on, but who knows?
What we can put together, though, is that the current monks continue a tradition that they no longer completely understand.
Yeah.
As the original purpose of them becoming infected was not to reach enlightenment,
yeah,
but rather to act as sponges to.
Yeah, and just over the years, it had, the religion had like changed or been rewritten, the history been rewritten to make it sound like, you're attaining enlightenment, but you're just sacrificing yourself for the greater good thing. That's what I'm getting from it.
Soak up the nothingness. This nothingness is connected to a deathless city, the one seen through the portal, a city of knowledge and secrets and forgotten things. The security officer seemed to imply that the infection is a punishment on humanity, perhaps, or Earth, based on the mural with the tree.
Right.
And the monks make a sacrifice to become infected with it to protect the rest of us.
Yep.
It's possible that we'll see more of this deathless city and its people's relationship with humans in the future. But for now, it's a chilling tale of body horror and the self-sacrifice of the religiously misguided.
Yep. No quote. Okay. I mean, it definitely has a very, actually, before I lose this thought, it honestly really reminds me of Ulasil in Dark Souls 1 with the Abyss, and kind of the Abyss expanding out and covering things in darkness and mutating the denizens into these strange creatures. It feels very, Dark Souls, Abyss, and having to, potentially travel into the Abyss and, destroy whatever the origin of this nothing is for it to stop kind of situation. But I want to re-listen to what he was talking about with the king stuff real quick. So let me bring this back up.
Dregs being flushed down a drain, and says that their end comes for us all.
Their end comes for us all.
He says that the new king made them forget what the old king showed them.
The new king made them forget what the old king showed them.
And when they found the truth again, they buried it.
And when they found the truth again, they buried it. So, okay. Hold on, let me re-listen to that one more time.
Dregs being flushed down a drain, and says that their end comes for us all.
Their end comes from us all. I'm assuming that's the darkness, the nothingness, the curse or whatever.
He says that the new king made them forget what the old king showed them.
The old king, I would assume, is the person that was depicted in the mural that was showing them about the darkness or whatever, and them soaking it up. He probably showed them that, hey, there is this evil, this darkness in the earth, and in order to preserve life, you have to go through the process of sucking up this nothingness so that life can exist.
And when they found the truth again, they buried it.
And then they forgot about it at one point in time. And then when they found the truth again, which was probably what they found in that one wing of the monastery that had been unused and etc., they buried that part of the monastery again. And that would also probably be what happened with the destruction of the Buddhist statues and the burning of certain books and, you know, ledgers and whatever else that probably had written down about this. And so they probably like covered up this practice and again, like twisted the idea of this religion as being something to attain a new form of enlightenment so that people would willingly be doing it instead of just sacrificing themselves, you know, and not getting anything out of it, potentially losing everything, their souls, everything. But in return, you know, life could be preserved. That's what I feel like is happening.
The rituals remain, but they don't know what it means.
Yeah, the rituals remain.
It's better not to know.
It's better not to know.
As better a blessing than a curse.
Yeah, better that they feel like it's a blessing than to understand that it's really a curse.
Flesh is used to sponge up so much nothing, and what a filthy, polluted filter we make. It isn't a hole, even though it looks like one. He is a hole, but he's not the darkness. It's an eclipse, and the highest did it, after what they did, all for trying to lift us to their heights.
That's interesting. So,
It isn't a hole, even though it looks like one. He is a hole, but he's not the darkness.
He is a hole, but he's not the darkness.
It's an eclipse.
It's an eclipse.
And the highest did it.
And the highest did it after what they did to try and raise us up.
After what they did, all for trying to lift us to their heights.
All for trying to lift us to their heights, huh? It sounds like some kind of deities or gods or whatever tried to do something to lift humanity up, and something went wrong and created whatever this is.
Their moon is a deathless city, a city of knowledge.
Their moon is a deathless city. So yeah, it's like he opened up a portal that went to some kind of moon and another planet. That's why it took 18 years for the signals to get to us, because it probably did have to travel through space to get back to us.
Secrets and forgotten things, and it casts a long, long shadow. Under the corpse light of their failed black sun, you would never know it was golden.
The corpse light of their failed black sun.
He's cut off as the remainder of his skull suddenly caved.
Interesting. Interesting. So yeah. I don't know. I think this is like a part of not necessarily a series, but a continuation of stories from other authors. So I'm very intrigued now at the end of that story, if that is the case, to see where this is going to go next. So yeah, very intriguing video that took a very Dark Souls turn at the end there that I'm all about. And definitely want to learn more about it. But yeah, so that was the Exploring Series SCP-7027. A is for Annihilation. Links will be down below in the description, as always, to the original video without my commentary and reaction, and to the Exploring Series channel. Please do me a favor, if you enjoyed this video, go over there, click that link, and give this video of the Exploring Series a like. And if you enjoy the Exploring Series content and you're not already subbed to him, please do me a favor, go over there and hit that sub button on his channel. Show the man some love. Show him some support. He definitely deserves it. Makes a lot of great content for the SCP universe and others. If you'd like to join us when we do these reactions live, we'd love to have you guys come in, join our conversations, add your 2 cents. There is a join button underneath the video, as well as a link in the description to the YouTube membership benefits and tiers that I offer. So yeah, if you've been around the channel for a while and decide you want to take your support to the next level, take a look at those. See if anything in there interests you. If you decide you want to, like I said, take your support to that next level. But regardless of all that, thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, consider leaving a like and the subs. It helps me and the channel grow. And yeah, appreciate you guys. Hope you're having yourselves a wonderful day. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one.